when the CEOs of some of the largest US food companies in the world met. And there were a number of executives from Pillsbury and Kraft that warned their colleagues that ultra-processed foods had gone too far. They predicted devastating health consequences. They said it would cost our country over $100 billion a year, that the public health toll would rival tobacco. And those voices were ignored, just as they were ignored in the tobacco industry, in the opioid industry, in the lead paint industry. I mentioned those because those are products that years ago were extremely popular, were viewed as safe. And all three of those are cases where my office and many other public law offices have brought lawsuits successfully to hold private sector actors accountable for the harm that they're doing to America's health.
What are the core claims in the lawsuit? Essentially, what are you asking for? What would be a positive result in terms of a decision?
So one thing I always like to explain is we're not looking to ban these products, but we are looking to hold this industry accountable. So first and foremost, as we talked about, to ensure that there aren't unfair and deceptive advertising and marketing practices that violate a variety of our state laws. And we also believe that these corporate defendants are interfering with the public's right to be free of injury to our health and safety. And we think that there needs to be restitution to society, to our city, for example, for the hundreds of millions of dollars that we spend every year addressing the health impact of the ultra-processed food industry. And so we are seeking in the courts to address the deceptive marketing and to hopefully receive restitution and civil penalties to offset those healthcare costs that we've paid. You talked about the socialization of these costs. When taxpayers, when patients, when all of us are paying for the profits of this industry that literally designed these products to be addictive and are having these negative impacts, something needs to be right-sized here.
Let's say you do get a positive judgment and there is some restitution. This is a little different than a class action lawsuit, right? Because in a class action lawsuit, there would be some sort of dispersal of funds to individuals. In this case, would essentially the city of San Francisco be the beneficiary of a decision? And if so, then how does that money then get allocated to actually address the issue?
Yeah, so I'll use the example of our opioid litigation because I think there are some similarities here. So years ago, there were a number of scientists that created opioids meant to address people's back pains and address different pains that they might be experiencing. These were marketed very heavily. There were many actors within the industry who understood that these medications would become extremely addictive. But they hid that from the public, and they made billions upon billions of dollars and literally, as you know, addicted an entire generation to opioids and killed people. And in that instance, there were cities around the country and states around the country that have sued the bad actors within the opioid industry, ours included. We actually led one of the bellwether lawsuits, one of the early and more significant trials in this area. And my office a few years ago, we won the largest per capita settlement of any city against a particular defendant in this space. And the $350 million that we were able to get from a number of opioid players is now being used by our public health system to address addictions that we are seeing on our streets. So 3/4 of people that you see in Los Angeles or we see in any city street around America who's addicted to drugs, there's a very strong likelihood that that addiction started with pain medications and opioids. And so I think it's entirely appropriate that the opioid industry has given us $350 million, which is only a fraction of what we have had to spend dealing with the negative healthcare consequences of opioids. I think it's the same analogy here. These are products that are marketed extremely well, but have led to, fatty liver disease and heart disease and kidney disease and even depression, trends within kids around obesity and type 2 diabetes that we haven't seen before. And we need help. Our public health system, which I mentioned is a $3 billion system, that's paid for by taxpayers, but